Hey guys, Miss Kalanicki. Sorry I can't be there today, but you're going to do some review on comparing populations where we're looking at box and whisker plots. And then we're going to do a little guided notes review. So you guys are going to fill in the blanks with some notes of topics that we've already talked about in preparation for your test next week. All right, so this should be, according to our cover, notes number 8. So make sure that's on there. Today's date is also a great idea. Today is 4/20/17. Here we go. And here we go. Get our notes ready. So it says recall that you use mean and the mean absolute deviation, or the MAD, that was the one that we did with that really nice chart the other day, to describe symmetric distributions of data. You use median and the interquartile range, or the IQR, to describe skewed distributions of data. To compare two populations, you're going to use the mean and the MAD when both distributions are symmetric, and you're going to use the median and the IQR when one or more distributions are skewed. Now that's a little complicated, but what you need to know is, in the next couple of examples, when I have a box and whisker plot, the only thing I can use is the median and the interquartile range. So anytime we see a box and whisker plot, because I don't have the data to add up and divide by how many there are, or find the mean, I have to use the median and the IQR when I'm doing a box and whisker plot. So I'm going to add that to your notes. Or if you want to call it a box plot, that's fine too. But you are going to use the median and the IQR when you have a box and whisker plot. So be aware. And again, these are pretty easy to recall. If you need to look back at your notes, pause the video. You should be able to figure out where the median is on this and be able to figure out what the IQR, or the interquartile range, is. So here's my model problem. Here we go. You want to compare the costs of speeding tickets in two states. The double box and whisker plot shows a random sampling of 10 speeding tickets issued in two states. Compare the samples using measures of center. That's something we're going to be talking about in a little bit in your guided notes. Measures of center and variation, measures of variation. And you're going to write an inference or a sentence about the two states using this information. So again, because it is a box and whisker plot, I don't have the data to find the mean. I must find the median and the interquartile range, because that's all I can find using this type of data. So where is the median? Well, median means middle. So where is the middle of these 5 points of data? Right here. So here is my median. So my median for state A, I'm going to trail it right down, is 70. The median for state B is, the middle point, is 80. Okay, so far? Now the interquartile range is the range between the quartiles. Yesterday, Kaylee reminded us where the quartiles were. Quartile 1, Q1 is right here. And quartile 3 is right here. Again, our median can sometimes be considered quartile 2, but usually we call it the median instead. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to find those two values and then subtract them. So my quartile 3 for state A is 80. I'm going to write it a little smaller because I have to do some subtraction. My quartile 1 for state A is 60. And I'm going to subtract the larger quartile minus the smaller quartile, and I'm going to get 20. So far, so good. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing for state B. Here's my quartile 3 out here at the end of the box. That's 100. And quartile 1, that's the end of the other side of the box, is 70. Subtract them, and I get 30. Now that I have these two pieces of information, I can make an inference or a summary statement. If you need help, there are sentence starters, I believe, on, let's see, I'm going to flip back and see. I believe it's 11.4. I'm going to double check for you right now. Yeah, here we go. Reading box plots. Talking about the IQR and having a higher median. So there you go. So go back to 11.4 if you need sentence starters to help you with that. I'm going to, if you need to pause the video and go back, that's fine. But when you're working on these on your own, I'm expecting you to go back to 11.4 and look for the sentence starters to help you with writing the inference. So here we go. I'm going to write, the first word we used was overall, and I'm going to talk about who was bigger. Overall, state B had the larger, and then I have to look and see what we're talking about. Oh, we're talking about the cost of speeding tickets. Had the larger cost. And then I look at whose IQR, interquartile range, was larger. Oh, state B also had the larger interquartile range. So overall, state B had the larger cost and was more varied, or you could even have said more spread out, than state A. So again, my two sentences, it's kind of one sentence, but I broke it up into two parts. The first part talks about the median having a larger cost, because state B had a larger cost. And then when I'm talking about the interquartile range, I'm talking about which one was more varied or which one was more spread out. So state B had the higher median, so it had a larger cost, and it was more varied than state A. And there we go. There's my sentence. Okay. With a partner, I want you to try this one. What I would recommend before you start is to create a small table, kind of like the one I had here. I might even make it a little more compact. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type for you to show you kind of what I want to see. Do team A here, and we'll do team B here, and then I'm going to do median here, and I'm going to do IQR here. So that way, let's see if I can squeeze these guys all in. That way I just made a little bit of a chart. It's going to be like a little box right here. So it has 4 spots in it. One for the median for team A, one for the median for team B, one for the IQR of team A, one for the IQR of team B. And then I'm leaving a little bit of extra room on this side for you to write your sentence. So the first directions of this, you and your partner should read, is for each box and whisker plot, determine the measure of center, that's my median, and variation, that's my IQR, for each component, and then you're going to write an inference statement about the data. Again, using those sentence starters on your notes, which is, your notes are 11.4, if you want to look for that, to help you write those sentences, or sentence if you want to make it a 2-part sentence. Alright, pause the video, come back when you're ready to go over it after a few minutes with your partner. Alright, hope you're ready for it. Here we go. So, the median for number 2. I don't think this is correct. I think this label was wrong. It talks about goals scored, so I think it should say goals. So I'm going to correct that first. Hopefully your sentences don't say anything about cost, but we'll see. So the median for team A, right in the middle, scroll down, is 3. Team B's median is 7. So again, we're looking at that middle box, that middle dot in the box. The IQR, again, I want to see some work. It's a very simple subtraction. You're going to find the end of the box, the third quartile, and you're going to find the beginning of the box, or the first quartile, and you're just going to subtract them. And I get 2 here, and then here, 8 minus 6, and I'm also going to get 2 here. Very interesting. So my sentence, okay, I'm going to start with overall. Overall, Team B had more goals, and both teams were equally varied, or equally spread out, because they had the same IQR. Okay. So again, we're doing the measures of center. The median is the measure of center that I can find on this particular box and whisker plot. And then the measure of variation, I'm talking about how varied my data is, how spread out it is based on the interquartile range. Okay, if that one went well, now I want you to try this one. The same thing I want to do with the last one. So I'm going to do sports on this one and political. And then I'm going to have median, and I'm going to have IQR. So that way you can keep yourself a little bit organized when we are when you're writing down your data. Here we go, here we go, here we go, and here we go. So you got your 4 spots. And then room for your sentence. I'm going to double check to make sure this one's labeled correctly. It is number of words per sentence. That's kind of interesting. And then I'm going to set you up for the next one as well. This one again has Team A and Team B, so I'm just going to write those down. Team A, Team B, and then I'm going to do median and IQR. Set you up so that way your data is nice and organized. I want you to do this as well. If you need to pause the video, or rewind it because you want to copy down what's going on. Again, here's my setup so that your information will be very organized, and then you're going to write the sentence. I want you to try these two independently. And pause the video, come back when you're ready to go over it. Okay, so here we go, ready to go over these. This one talks about the box and whisker plot shows the means of 200 random samples of 20 sentences. Compare the variability of the samples means to the variability of the sample words in part A. Okay, so I'm looking at sports magazines and I'm looking at political magazines. So my median for sports magazines was 20. My median for political magazines is between 22 and 24. What number is right in between 22 and 24? Oh, 23. Hopefully that didn't stump you. You guys are smart, so I don't think it did. Now I'm going to look at the sports magazines. And again, there's a halfway in between guy, right? If I track this back out. So that's 21. For my third quartile, and between 18 and 20, that's going to be 19. So 21 minus 19 is 2. And then over here, high upper quartile is 24. Lower quartile is 22. So my IQR is 2 for political. So just like we had our example one, overall, we will say political magazines had more words per sentence. Both magazines were equally varied. Again, I'm going to shrink this a little bit so you guys can see it. It'll fit on one page. Okay, so the political magazines overall had more words per sentence. Again, my label is right here to help me label my sentence. Both magazines were equally varied. Both magazines had, if you look even, the same size box. So overall, both of the magazines had equal variations in terms of their words per sentence. Interesting. But political magazines had more words per sentence typically. Good. Moving on. Here we go. This one's about the football team. The double box and whisker plot shows the points scored per game for 2 football teams during the regular season. So, I'm looking at Team A. Oh no. It's right in between 12 and 16. And again, if you need help, you can always add the two numbers and divide it by 2, split it in half. But I think you might have been able to figure out. If you go back to this one, maybe it'll be easier. What's between 0 and 4? That's 2. Sorry, that's a terrible 2. Let's try that again. That's 2. So if you count 2, 4, this one in the middle would be 6, this is 8, this is 10, this is 12, which means this guy in the middle should be 14. How about Team B? Oh, right on the money, 32. And now let's do the interquartile range. Again, right in between 20 and 24 is going to be 22. And over here, in between 4 and 8, we already labeled it, is 6. 22 minus 6 makes 22, 21, 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 16. And 36 for the upper quartile here. Again, it's another name for quartile 3 is the upper quartile. There's only 2, so I got an upper one and I got a lower one. My lower quartile here is 20. And when I subtract them, oh man, I also get 16. Very interesting, very interesting. Okay, double checking my math real quick, making sure I got the right answers. Okay, so now, my sentence. Overall, Team B, what did they do? They had more what? And again, here's my label. I can go back and read. Talking about points scored per game. So overall, Team B scored more points per game, but both teams were equally varied. Interesting. Very interesting. A lot of equally varied situations. So what does that mean? That means both teams are pretty consistent with the number of points that they're scoring. They're not typically scoring much lower or much higher than they usually do most of the time. But if you look at this one, it's kind of interesting because Team B has a much longer whisker here, which means they're a little inconsistent about a quarter of the time. But most of the time, about 50% of the time, which is what that box represents. Remember, we talked about the 4 quarters of the box, and we shaded them in the other day, and I'll shade them in for you right now with the different colors. So here's the first quarter of the data. Here's the second quarter of the data. Here's the third quarter of the data, and our fourth quarter of the data. So if you notice, about 75%, right, 3 quarters, or even 2 quarters, the data's pretty close together. But this 1 quarter is really, really spread out. So Team B is a little more inconsistent. However, Team A is pretty consistent. The 4 quarters, you got your 1 quarter, 2 quarters, 3 quarters, and 4 quarters are pretty balanced, pretty evenly balanced. So it's kind of interesting. But in terms of their IQR, both teams were equally varied. So that's kind of interesting. Okay, so this can go in your notes. What you should have with you right now is something called the Statistics Guided Note Sheet. Now, this is all stuff we have already learned. So what you need to do is you need to go back in and look at your notes while you're doing it. Ms. Freifeld in the sub may allow you to work as, a partner, maybe a group of 3. It depends on what they want and what they feel, how they feel you will work best today. So work on this. There is an answer key that they have. They can fill this in for you. I don't want to because I'm not sure you're going to be able to finish it today. And if you don't, that's okay. We will have more time to work on it tomorrow. So don't be concerned. We're going to do lots of review for this next test coming up. So enjoy your Thursday. You have no homework tonight. Make sure, though, that you do homework number 75. It is due today. But since I am not here to check it, I will be checking it tomorrow. So you have an extra day to get it done. Tomorrow you will have homework, so be prepared. All right, guys, I hope you have a great afternoon, and I will see you when I get back on Friday. Have a good day. Bye.